When you think about a car with more than 400 horsepower, the Volvo brand doesn't immediately spring to mind, nor does a compact family SUV. However, this car next to me is obviously a Volvo, and yes, it's a compact SUV, and yes, it has more than 400 horsepower, which makes this car a lot of fun to drive, but at the same time, it's still a safe and practical family SUV. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this fully electric Volvo XC40. Hey guys, how's it going? I really hope you enjoy this new channel that I just set up. If you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and maybe let me know in the comments if you like this kind of content. Today we got the Volvo XC40 P8 Recharge, which is not really a catchy name, but the bottom line is that this is a fully electric version of the Volvo XC40. Now on the outside it's a bit hard to tell if this is the fully electric XC40 or the regular XC40. You do get a logo in the back and you get a little less ground clearance on this car because this car has the battery pack in the floor, but there are also a couple of other details that you can only find on this fully electric XC40. Take for example this D-pillar. On this fully electric version it will say Recharge on the side. With the Recharge version you always get a black roof. This wheel design you can only get on the fully electric XC40. 19 inches standard, but you can get up to 20 inch like this one. The fuel filler cap has of course turned into a charge port, although you cannot really tell from the outside. But what you can tell from the outside is that the grille is, well, a bit different. You can see the big Volvo logo, which is about as big as my own hand, and it's got the camera integrated in it. But what most striking is that the grille, or whatever you would call it, is fully closed. That's because there's obviously no combustion engine behind it that needs cooling. So they fully closed it, but you can also tell that it has the same color as the rest of the car. Now this color is called sage green. It looks a bit grayish, a bit greenish. It's an optional color, it's about 1300 euros. But if I would order this car in blue, this front part would be blue. If I would order the car in red, the front part would be red. And that makes this car look a bit different than a regular XC40. Let's go back to the charge port again, because this is obviously where you can charge the car. The car has a 78 kilowatt hour battery that you can charge within 40 minutes from 0 to 80%. If you can find a fast charger that can charge up to 150 kilowatts. Now that's pretty fast and you don't have to pay any extra to get up to that charging speed. It's a standard charging speed of 150 kilowatts. However, there will always be cars that charge a bit faster. Think of Tesla that will charge up to 250 kilowatts and the new Hyundai and the new Kia that will charge up to 350 kilowatts. But again, definitely no complaints here about the charging speeds. And besides, you will probably charge this car mostly at home, as you should, because it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot better for the battery. The battery doesn't really like it if you only fast charge it. At home or at the public charging points, this car will charge up to 11 kilowatts and it will take around 8 hours or a full night of sleep to fully charge up the battery. If the battery is fully charged, you can get up to 418 kilometers of range, according to the official WLTP figures. In reality, it's more like 350, 380. So this car has a little less range than the Polestar 2, which officially will do 470 kilometers. So in reality, more like 400, 430 kilometers. Now, why do I compare this car to the Polestar 2? Well, they are basically the same car. They both share Volvo's CMA platform, they both have the same 78 kilowatt hour battery, and they have the same electric motors, and they even have the same infotainment system, but more on that later. Both cars are also very heavy. This car weighs over 2100 kilos, which is a lot for a car, especially for a compact SUV, but that's what happens when you put a big heavy battery in a car. The car also has a ton of torque, 660 Newton meters, and as a result, this compact family SUV will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.9 seconds. So yeah, that's a ton of fun, but this is still a practical family SUV. So let's look at some practical stuff. Let's look what's under the bonnet. Now, obviously there's no combustion engine here. There's just an electric motor here, and an electric motor is not that big, about the size of a watermelon. So there's some room left for luggage space. They got a frunk, as you call it with an electric car. It's not the biggest one, it's smaller than in like a Tesla, but it's still a decent size and it's bigger than what you get at the Volkswagen ID.4 or the Skoda Enyaq, because they don't have a frunk. It's 31 liters here and you can leave your charging cables here or a couple of bags of groceries. So you get some extra storage space in the front, but you lose some here in the back, because this car has slightly less storage space than a regular XC40. This car has 413 liters, which is about 40 liters less than in a regular XC40. However, it's not that much of a difference, and I wouldn't call this a small compartment. You can easily store a few suitcases here, and if you put the back seats down, it will still fit larger items, like for instance a mountain bike. And if this is not enough room for you, this car can tow up to 1500 kilos, which is actually pretty impressive for an electric car. There's a small button here on the back. If I press it, a tow bar will magically appear, and you just have to give it a gentle push, and then this car is ready to tow. The XC40 may be the smallest SUV that Volvo will sell you, but here in the back it doesn't really feel that small. I got lots of leg room. I got the seat in the same position as how I use it, and my legs are not hitting the seat. My feet can move around freely, and my head also has enough room. However, if you're 185 or 190, your head will hit the roof. The seats are a bit short, so you are missing a little bit of leg support here. And unlike the XC60 and the XC90, the space is a little less suitable for 3 adults to sit next to each other. You probably shouldn't do that. You can sit 3 kids next to each other, that's fine. And the middle child can also get his own headrest, of course their own seat belt. The car also has 2 USB-C ports here in the back. And this one, the car I'm driving right now, also has heated seats here in the back. The interior of this electric XC40 is slightly different compared to the interior of a regular XC40. And that's because of this infotainment system. This system runs Android Automotive, just like in the Polestar 2. And you should not confuse this system with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, because that basically turns your mobile phone into an infotainment system. Instead, Android Automotive is really the operating system itself. And because that system is from Google, you get all the Google apps, like for instance Google Assistant. If you press this button here on the steering wheel, you can activate Google Assistant and you can ask it everything you want. For example, the weather forecast or opening and closing times of a certain restaurant. But you can also give it commands like turning up the heat in the car or turning on the heated seats. Now for the navigation, you obviously get Google Maps. Now pretty much everybody is familiar with Google Maps. It's a great system. It's better than pretty much any other navigation system. And it's a real big plus that you get it on this car as a standard navigation app. You can use this system from Google even if you don't have an Android phone or even an iPhone. But if you do have, like for instance, a Google account or a Gmail account, the car will know what your life looks like, what your daily routine is like, what your schedule is like. And then the system is more than just an infotainment system with which you can control some function of the car. You can then even, for instance, set the temperature at home or turn on the lights in the kitchen if you have, for instance, a smart speaker like Google Home. Now behind the steering wheel, you get a digital gauge cluster. It looks fine and you can set it to your liking. So for instance, you can get the navigation on there so you don't have to look at this screen, you can just look forward. And overall it works perfectly fine, but there's one really annoying part about it. It doesn't show your actual range. At this moment I have 61% left, but I have no idea if that's like 50 kilometers or 130 kilometers. It doesn't tell me, it only tells me that I got 61% left. Now I tried to look it up if I could change it here in the settings, but you really can't. Now of course, if this is your own car, after a while you can make a good estimated guess how far you can get with a certain percentage. But you know, weather conditions, driving style, it will all change your actual range, so you're never really certain. Luckily there are 2 solutions. The first is to ask your car nicely. Now I hope I don't wake up some Google speakers if you got one at home. Hey Google, what is my range?
You can drive for about 200 kilometers with the remaining charge.
Alright, so that clears it up, but it's still a bit of a detour. I just want to see it on the screen. Now the second solution comes from Volvo, because apparently a lot of Volvo owners have been complaining to Volvo about this certain issue, and Volvo will come with an over-the-air update. Now when this update will come, I have absolutely no idea, and Volvo hasn't stated it yet, so until then you really have to ask the car politely. Alright, let's drive the Volvo XC40 P8 Recharge. Now usually when you start a car you put your keys in the ignition or you press a start button. Now this car doesn't have both of them. There's still an area here where you can see that there used to be a start button, because in the regular XC40 you do get a start button, because you really have to start the engine. These electric motors you don't really have to start. So you just get in the car, you have the key with you in your pocket or you put it somewhere here in the middle, and the car automatically recognizes that the key is inside the car, and then you can just press the gear selector backwards, you put it in drive, and then you can go start driving the car. Alright, there we go. Now the third thing that I want to talk about, which I usually don't talk about with small compact family SUVs is the power, because this car has a lot of power. Like I said, you got an engine in the front, you got an engine in the back, or really more a motor in the front and a motor in the back. They both produce 204 horsepower, so you got 408 in total, 660 newton meters of torque, which means that if I press the accelerator, I just go flying. It's basically really insane, especially for such a small compact family car. It's actually almost too much. I rarely say that, but it's basically too much in such a small car. But it does mean that you can have a lot of fun with this car, and it's really addictive. You just want to do it all over again and all over again, because it's so much fun. And because the battery pack is fairly big, 78 kilowatt hours, you can do it over and over again without being afraid that you will run out of juice. However, there will be cars that have a better range. Again, Teslas, they do have a bit more range, but I would say in this car it feels sufficient. I don't have any range anxiety at all, even with this gauge cluster that won't tell me how much range I actually have. Now, although you got all this power, this car isn't really meant for sporty driving. This is a really high car, and obviously it's really heavy. If you do want a heavy but sporty electric car, you're better off with a Tesla Model 3 performance, but also the Polestar 2. On the Polestar 2 you get the same amount of performance, 408 horsepower, but you can't get the performance pack on that car, which you cannot get on this family SUV. The performance pack means you get Brembo brakes, you get Öhlin dampers, which means that you can go a bit faster through corners. And you probably shouldn't do that with this car. And that's not that bad, because if you're buying this car, you're buying a compact family car. And this car is really good at being a compact family car. The XC40 always was, and it still is in this electric version. And I would even go as far as to say that this electric version is even better than the regular XC40. The electric drivetrain obviously has a lot more performance, basically too much, more than you need. But it also means you get a complete silent drivetrain, you get linear acceleration, and overall it's just more comfortable to drive. And you still get the normal things that you get in a normal XC40, so you get enough room in the back. Alright, it's 40 liters less, but that's still doable. You get enough space for the kids in the back, and you get a high seating position, so you get good views all around. Now, of course, this is a Volvo. This car is packed with safety and driver assistance systems. Think of blind spot monitoring, lane keeping assist. Well, you name it, it's all on this car as standard. Then let's talk pricing. This car will start in the Netherlands from 55,495 euros. Then you get the entry level without any options, but you do, however, get 408 horsepower. If you do want some options, the price will go up quite quickly. This car has the optional panoramic roof, Harman Kardon sound system, electric adjustable seats, and this car has a sticker price over 65,000 euros. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, and I hope you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.